This is Brian Deere. This is the journalist who pitted his wits against Professor John Walker-Smith. So here you have the best gastroenterologist in the world, pediatric gastroenterologist, and you can have a quasi-journalist working ad hoc for the Murdoch empire. This is what he says about himself. This is what he said to the British Medical Journal when they enlisted him to produce articles calling me a fraud. This is the kind of objectivity that is being sought by the editor of the British Medical Journal, Fiona Godley. And this was obtained in defamation proceedings that we tried to take against the British Medical Journal and Brian Deere in Texas court. There is a long-arm statute. We had a right to do it. We were denied jurisdiction. But we had discovery. And this is, in the construction of these articles, this is what Brian Deere wrote to Fiona Godley. I freely admit to being semi-notorious for packing into single, highly readable and apparently bland sentences rat's nests of complexity and implication. That is Brian Deere on himself. That is the substance of the articles. And if you think that this man is in this out of compassion for parents with autism, really thinking that their children have been abused, next slide, please. This is what he says about the parents of children with autism: the festering nastiness, the creepy repetitiveness, the weaselly, deceitful obsessiveness, all signal pathology to me, and they wonder why their children have problems with their brains. That is a man who, on the face of it, was protecting you and your families. There is the lie, and there is the hypocrisy. Please report that. Next slide, please. So what is the legacy of that paper? The bowel disease in autism is now the most consistent finding in research around the world. Reproduced in various forms by many, many different researchers, including institutions in this country. Next slide, please. This is the kind of child that we would see. This is a child, maybe we're better off with the lights down, I don't know, but if, particularly with these images, I showed these last night. This is a little boy who came to us early on. He is clearly unwell. The physicians had never taken his clothes off and examined him. If in doubt, this is what one of my bosses said in surgery, if in doubt, examine the patient. He looks like a famine victim from West Africa. He has no muscle mass. He's failing to thrive. Who is the person under investigation in this family? The mother. This is the mess that mainstream medicine has got itself into. Rather than examine this child, the mother has been pulled in front of Child Protective Services for starving this boy. But if you look at his sister behind, that belies the notion that she is perfectly healthy. This little boy has inflammatory bowel disease and had to come to America from England to get treated. Next slide, please. This little boy would do this for hours a day. The psychiatrist said, well, that's just autistic behavior. That's just repetitive behavior. No, it's not. This is entirely appropriate behavior for a child who is in chronic abdominal pain. He cannot communicate that because he lost the ability to speak. So he puts pressure on his abdomen for hours a day to relieve that pain. This is an entirely appropriate learned behavior. Next slide, please. This little boy would sleep like this. This is how he would sleep to relieve that pain. We know this because when he was scoped and diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, when that was treated, he never did this again. He went to bed and he slept normally. Next slide, please. This is self-injury. This is a boy who would beat his head against the wall to render himself unconscious because he was in such pain. This boy's life was changed just with an exclusion diet. And he went on that diet. He never did it again. He had underlying inflammatory bowel disease. But medicine is prepared to believe that this is just autism. Next slide, please. And this is why I do what I do. And that's why, having done it for 20 years, I am never, ever, ever going to go away.